You know why I like top 10 lists so much? Even though some of these lists kind of contain the same movies or games or whatever list you're looking at, there's always that one, it seems like they have a different viewpoint than the rest of them, and it kind of gives you a good idea like, hey, maybe I need to watch this, or maybe I need to play this. In this case, I hope it works for someone. Let's get this started. Nerd Theory. Okay, so this is my top 10 movies of 2017. Now, having said that, I want to get this out of the way. These are my top 10 favorite movies of 2017. There's going to be movies on here where you're just going to look at it and go, what the F was that? And that is completely understandable. I get that because I don't have the same taste in movies as a lot of other people that I know do. With that, of course, I have not seen every single movie in 2017. I also realized I've missed a lot of movies too, especially in December. There's a lot of probably great movies that came out in December, but I haven't watched them for one or two reasons. Number one, I've been busy, or number two, they've been in limited release and they just haven't reached my city yet that I'm staying in. So with that being said, let's start with number 10. So this one's going to be a little polarizing for a lot of people. The Killing of a Sacred Deer, starring Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman. Look, when it comes down to it, and once I said, you can watch the review on this on my channel. It's not a movie for everybody. I understand that 100%. Having said that, it is a hypnotic, twisted revenge story. That's the simplest way I could put it. And at the end of the day, all the movies I've seen this year, there's been very few that made me just think about it like every day. Like there's not a day that's gone by since I watched this movie where I haven't thought about it a little bit in the back of my mind. And to me, that deserves to be in my top 10. Number 9, Split, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Shyamalan's back, it appears. So far, so good. We'll know a little bit later on when Glass comes out, the sequel to Unbreakable that everybody's been wanting. But this film, I think James McAvoy's performance alone is enough for me to condone putting this in my top 10. It's a well-executed movie. It's well thought out. It's well acted. That's one of the biggest things for me. James McAvoy, the more and more I see James McAvoy on screen, the more and more I just love him as an actor. And it just really, and this movie just hit it home for me. Number 8, Baby Driver, directed by Edgar Wright. You can't keep a good Edgar Wright down. I don't care what anybody says. It seems like every movie he makes, he just, like, hits it out of the park. There are better movies that he's done than others, but that's okay, because that's the case in most directors' careers. For everything from the Cornetto trilogy to Scott Pilgrim, now to Baby Driver, it's just been a home run with him, and not to mention the movie itself. It's fast, it's stylish, the music is awesome, it has John Hamm in it, and it's Jamie Foxx, amongst other people, and everybody delivers a great performance, even Kevin Spacey, even before he became a dickhead, apparently. Baby Driver was just fun. When it really comes down to it, I just thought it was a very fun movie. Number 7, Wind River. So Wind River is directed by Taylor Sheridan, who actually wrote Sicario and Hell or High Water. Those are two great films. This one, I believe, is his directorial debut. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm about 80% sure that's correct. Yeah. Look, besides the direction of this movie and what the movie's about, which is a murder mystery, Jeremy Renner, I have never been the biggest fan of. Like, he's been real hit or miss with me. The last thing I saw him in that I really liked him in was The Town. Yes, we love him as Hawkeye in The Avengers, but he brings it in Wind River. I'm so impressed by his performance on there. Same thing with Elizabeth Olsen. Elizabeth Olsen's kind of this FBI agent who's, I'm not going to say a rookie, but a very fish out of water, because this is set in Wyoming during it's springtime, but it still looks like winter there. Just the cinematography on this is so well done. It captures just like this bleakness. It's just white. It just looks miserable to live in, and they really touched on that in this movie. Look, this is a sad movie, no doubt, especially when you find out certain actual aspects. This was a surprise movie, and for that, and I just watched it again last night, actually, and I was like, you know what, this has to make my top 10, so there it is. Number 6. Well, here's another one that's really going to divide everybody who watches this. Mother, starring Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem, Michelle Pfeiffer, Ed Harris, amongst others. I'm not going to go too much into the weeds on this. It's one of those movies, it was marketed way wrong. It's not a Rosemary's Baby clone, at least not in my opinion. If you haven't watched this and you do plan on watching it, just don't take it at face value, because everything's coming at you really fast. You're not going to understand what's going on or why it's going on, and that's the point. It's trying to tell you a story you've probably heard hundreds of times before, especially if you've been to church, in a more in a shorter way, in a more modern way, with a different point of view. And if you kind of get that and you understand what they're telling you, then you'll probably appreciate this movie. Or if you just like weird movies in general, you don't really want to know the context of it in any kind of way, kind of like in a David Lynch type of way, then this movie may appeal to you. This is a very split movie. I mean, they even put movie posters out where it's like they had like all the rave reviews and then it had like all the negative reviews on there. It's a very polarizing movie, but I thought it deserved to be on my list. Number 5, Lady Bird, directed by Greta Gerwig. Look, this movie, it's not going to be everybody's favorite movie, but I do think it's a movie that just checks off all the boxes, right? The direction is great, the acting is great. It's a good coming of age tale. It didn't really falter. It felt like the right runtime. You know what I mean? It didn't seem overly long, and it was enjoyable, and it had its funny moments, and this, that, and the other. When I went into this movie, it had like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I went into it, I'm thinking like it was going to be this masterpiece. And while I'm not going to say it's a masterpiece per se, it's a perfect movie in the sense that it just ticks all the boxes. It's funny, it's heartwarming. You can relate to it if going through high school, especially if you're going through high school in the 90s. There's a lot of parallels there that I kind of connected with. Yes, I'm old. I just outed myself. But with Greta Gerwig going from actress to director like this and putting out a movie like this that seems so flawless in so many ways is a huge accomplishment. And it's an enjoyable movie, and it's a movie I'm going to watch again and enjoy it with other people. Number 4, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. It has Frances McDormand in it. You can see my review on the channel, but I'm going to say it once, I'm going to say it again. And Oscar nominations haven't come out yet at this point. I don't think they do for like another month at least. But if Frances McDormand doesn't at least receive a nomination for this, there's no justice in this world. This is a dark comedy, quote unquote. Now, I say that because that's actually what it's labeled as. And while it does have its funny moments, I never found it to be a comedy. I found it to be a drama based around this woman who just wants to know what happened to her daughter and why she was killed. It's also a character piece too, where everybody kind of has their own arc, it seems like, especially the Sam Rockwell character. He has the biggest character arc in a movie that I've seen in a long time, and he does it well. There's a case to be made for him getting an award for this, or at least being nominated, in my opinion. Look, it's an enjoyable movie. Is it a movie that you're going to want to see over and over again? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe if you see it once, you get enough of it. But it was enough of an impact for me as far as the performances, at least, are concerned that it deserves to be in my top 10. Number 3. Okay, so this is kind of going back into more of the mainstream movies, the ones that you just really know about a little bit more than probably some of the rest of the ones that I've mentioned so far. But number 3 is Logan. This was the character's swan song. It's different. It's great. It's gritty. It's rated R. It's the Wolverine movie that a lot of people knew they wanted, and then kind of the movie that nobody knew that they wanted at the same time. Hugh Jackman gives his best performance as Logan in this movie. Like, I'm not going to get down to the roots about this. This is the movie that Hugh Jackman deserved to be able to make as his final outing as Logan/Wolverine. There was tension, there was violence, there was everything that made Wolverine as a character Wolverine in the comics, and they brought it to life here, and they ended the character in a meaningful way. And I think that's all we can really ask from this movie. And because of that, it's definitely top 3. Number 2, Blade Runner 2049. This is actually kind of bittersweet in a way. I think this movie is, from a cinematography standpoint, the best movie of 2017. Now, I will contest that the only reason that this is not number 1 on my list is because the movie's 3 hours long. It does not need to be 3 hours long. But having said that, everybody did well in it. Harrison Ford actually brought it as Deckard again for a little bit of time he was in there. Same thing with Ryan Gosling. We went into this movie not knowing what this movie exactly was or what the plot line is, and that was on purpose. But I also think not knowing what this movie was in the grand scheme of the Blade Runner universe actually hurt it as far as marketing. Not many people went to go see it. I don't know if that's because of the marketing or if we're in this kind of weird or if we're maybe spoiled with the marketing, like some marketing just kind of lays it out here, this is what it's about, go, and people go and see it. But if you don't know what it's about or what the plot line is, then maybe people just don't want to go see that. Maybe that's where we're at right now. I don't know the reason why this movie didn't make more money going into it. It was a beautiful movie. It took the lore of Blade Runner and it went with it, and it stayed respectful of that. And I do think in many ways this movie is way better than the original Blade Runner. It's just unfortunate, though, that we're probably not going to see another Blade Runner movie because this one just did not do as well. And there's going to be people contesting out there who's like, well, it didn't do well. That probably maybe that meant that it just wasn't that great of a movie. No, I don't agree with that 100%. I don't think people knew what this movie was, and that's what hurt it. Number one. Look, I'm not big on remakes or anything like that. Like, they remake Ghostbusters and RoboCop and all this, and it just hasn't panned out. So I'm very down on remakes. But there are movies out there that could use a bit of a facelift, I think. And as much as I loved it when I was a kid, Stephen King's It hasn't aged well. I mean, it was an ABC miniseries, and at the time it terrified me. But when I got older and started watching it, it just didn't hold up. So when I heard that the new Stephen King's It was coming out and they were breaking into 2 movies, I was very, very excited to see what they could do. But I did not expect to be blown away in the way that I was. Is this a horror movie? Yes, absolutely, it's a horror movie. But it's also a comedy. It's also about being about obsession. It's also about child abuse. It's about friendship. It's a coming of age story. It's all these things kind of wrapped into one movie, and that's what makes this movie great to me. Look, bottom line is, I mean, not everybody's a horror person, and I completely understand that if you're not, but when it comes down to it, out of all these movies I've seen every year, Stephen King's It is the only one that delivered for me in the sense that I can just go back and watch this movie over and over and over again and still be entertained by it. And that's not a small feat. Well, that's it. That's my top 10. Love it or hate it. If you like some of my picks, please let me know in the comments below. If you didn't like it, that's fine too. You can let me know in the comments below. Having said that, once again, there are a lot of movies I missed out on later this year, like The Shape of Water or The Post. Some of these movies just haven't hit my town yet, and I haven't been able to watch them. So maybe this list could have changed if I saw some of these movies, but as it happens to be, I didn't get a chance to. So hopefully this list is good enough, and I look forward to it 2018, and keep on being entertained as long as it's legal.